To me, the number one attribute of someone in this field is curiosity.
We're working with atoms and stuff like that, so it's a very interesting technology, and I think that's where the future's headed.
It's so hard to wrap ourselves around the idea of how small that is.
If you have the desire to be in a science, then this is where you should be.
Mark Atwater is a Dean's List student at Pennsylvania College of Technology. But this summer, the sophomore engineering major is at Penn State University, experiencing a unique program.
Well, every morning when I leave, I'm not sure exactly what's going to be coming up, but the days are always filled with more information than I can even absorb, so that's when a lot of the nighttime studying comes. But I mean, there's something different every day, which makes this a great class to be in, because you're not doing the same thing over and over and over. And so there's always something. I mean, you can always expect to learn something new, a lot of things new.
Mark hopes to join the ranks of a select number of students throughout Pennsylvania. He wants to grasp an enabling technology offering boundless possibilities, nanotechnology.
I have dreams about it and things, you know, so I mean, it really does encompass quite a bit of my life. So even when I am relaxing, which I get to do every once in a while, I mean, it's still not far from my mind.
Referred to as the next industrial revolution, nanotechnology has been a focus at Penn State for several years. University researchers working at the atomic level have produced more than 100 patent-protected technologies and licensed 53 nanotech discoveries to industry. The heart of the institution's commitment is a Nano Fabrication Lab, which facilitates industry research and provides valuable hands-on training for students such as Mark, enrolled in a nanotechnology capstone semester.
You know, everyone that's gone through it before said it's one of the more difficult courses that they've taken. But I personally didn't, have a full grasp of what was going to be included with it, but it's just a matter of adjustment. At first it was rather overwhelming, but now it's become more of a way of life than anything.
Whether fulfilling a degree requirement from their school or, like Mark, earning a nano fabrication competency credential, capstone graduates possess the basic nanotechnology skill set for industry. To earn their nano stripes, Mark and his fellow students must tackle 12 weeks of lectures and labs and an all-encompassing final project.
It's not uncommon to put in 10 or 12 hours, but it's just, I believe that the more time you put into it, the higher quality of the work is, the more you learn, the more you can absorb it. So I don't really see it as being too much of an inconvenience putting a lot of time into my work, because it's a reflection of who I am and what I'm worth.
In their book, The Next Big Thing is Really Small, Jack Aldrich and Deb Newberry define nanotechnology as the art and science of manipulating and rearranging individual atoms and molecules to create useful materials, devices, and systems.
So, all right, you set up what? Set up your pounds per square inch?
Eric Albert has been fascinated by atoms since he took his first toy apart as a child. Now a professor of automated manufacturing, Albert helps visualize the power of manipulating individual atoms.
The best example I can give you, which most people are in some way familiar with, is if you have carbon. And you've probably seen just elemental carbon. It's like the soot in your tailpipe in a car, or the residue after combustion. And that's just carbon in its simplest of forms. Then, if you take carbon and arrange it in a way that it's in a hexagonal box, you've got graphite. And graphite is very different stuff than the soot in your tailpipe. You use it in your pencils. It is slippery and it's a good lubricant. And so it has different properties, but it's still carbon. It's still atoms of carbon arranged in a new crystalline pattern. Take those same atoms of carbon and arrange them in yet another crystalline pattern, and you end up with diamond, clear, the hardest substance known to man. It's very different, very unique properties, and it's all the same atom.
An atom is the smallest unit of matter. Various combinations form the building blocks of everything we see and touch. Atoms consist of a nucleus containing protons and neutrons, surrounded or orbited by electrons. The exact number of all three determines the particular type of atom. This one is carbon, but there are over 100 more. And these atoms are at the core of nanotechnology.
When you first learned what an atom was, it was amazing, but you really never felt like you could hold it or manipulate it. And then once you learn about nanotechnology, you see that you can actually work at that level and make changes, and it really blows your mind to know that you can have an effect on something that small that normally you would never be able to deal with.
When we're dealing with nanotechnology, that means we're really dealing at the atomic level. We're actually able to place atoms where we want them.
Jeff Rankinen is an electronics professor who has studied nanotechnology.
Nano refers to a prefix meaning 1/billionth. So when you hear nano, it usually refers to a nanometer scale. So a nanometer is 1/billionth of a meter, or 1/millionth of a millimeter. It's just incredibly small.
Let's use a football field to illustrate. The 100 yards from end zone to end zone equal roughly 91.4 billion nanometers. How about a much smaller measuring stick? The width of a strand of hair is approximately 80,000 nanometers. A human red blood cell, 8,000 nanometers. And a single atom, less than 1 nanometer across.
Being able to fabricate things at that size scale, you can imagine fabricating drug molecules or synthetic varieties of a lot of things that are naturally created that we may be lacking or not have enough of. So you're talking about, who knows, synthetic fuels and all of that, and that's where its power comes. We have this ability to create anything that we can imagine, essentially.
It's clearly pushing the boundaries and the frontiers. It's in a sense like the space race. Going to the moon was a place we had never been. And in terms of this technology, it's a place we've not been yet.
It seemed so far away. I mean, this is like people in clean rooms, all gowned up. And I mean, that wasn't something that I thought I could do. I mean, that's something that I figured you had to have PhDs, or that you had to have, 20 years experience out in the field, or had to be some kind of crazy scientist, or that kind of thing. So, I mean, it was something that I didn't even really register when I first saw it. But then it came back up, and that it was an opportunity that it was available to me through Penn College. And that's when I started taking a more serious look at it. I do find it entertaining. So it's not just learning, it's not just sitting there and having things forced down your throat. It's things that I want to learn. And so it's kind of a pleasure going to class and being able to get that kind of information.
Mark's class this morning requires a bunny suit rather than a backpack. The full-body suit prevents hairs and skin flakes from contaminating the 2,700 square foot Nano Fabrication Lab. The facility is about 10,000 times cleaner than a typical hospital operating room.
In the world of nano, dust and hair and viruses, bacteria, any of that are huge compared to what we're doing. There's a thing called critical dimension, and any contaminant, like up to a tenth of the size of your critical dimension, can be enough to destroy that device. So any piece of dust that might be around 10 microns or so will just absolutely destroy anything.
Put another way, just a tiny piece of this bug would be enough to contaminate work in the facility. Mark is part of the 19th class of capstone students receiving training in a $32 million lab, which is home to Penn State's Center for Nanotechnology Education and Utilization, one of 13 sites of the National Nanotechnology Infrastructure Network. The center is supported by the National Science Foundation and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. For students, the facility provides a fertile learning environment with equipment and processes prevalent in industry.
The students actually first get the tool demonstrated to them by a teaching assistant, which is a student that usually has gone through the program prior. And after that, they get trained by an engineer here at the facility. And then after that, they get to go into the lab with the teaching assistant, and they themselves get to operate the machinery after being trained by the engineer.
Work with these guys because they're doing litho as well. And once we get done with where we're at, all right, awesome.
I like being in the lab because it's a different environment from anything else I'm doing during the week or ever before. There's a lot of equipment in here. It just does amazing things. You know, it's expensive, it's very precise, and it's just a good feeling being around that.
The center's 14-person engineering staff facilitates product development and educational activities for industry partners throughout the world. Nanotechnology research at the lab touches physics, chemistry, medicine, biology, and engineering. The lab supports over 400 users per year, in addition to the capstone students.
This was the only facility in the country where undergraduates got to utilize the equipment in a program like this. But now there are others which have emulated our program, and they're doing exactly the same things.
Stephen Fodash is one of the nation's leading authorities on nanotechnology education. He established the center in 1999 and devised the 18-credit Nano Capstone semester.
The capstone semester consists of, first of all, total immersion into nanotechnology here at University Park. What we give them, we believe, is a tool set that they can then use the rest of their professional life to build on.
Partner colleges and universities throughout the state recommend students for the program based on a required skill set.
Good academics, strong character in completing assignments, and those are the general characteristics we look for. They also need a background in chemistry and in statistics and in mathematics, and they need to have good oral communication skills and good writing skills.
It's important to have a certain amount of curiosity, to have interest in the physics of things, even the way things work, or I mean, there's just being able to put in a lot of work, being steadfast in what you do, and I mean, intelligence isn't exactly like an ingrained thing. I mean, it's something you have to be willing to put in the work to get out the result.
The work for the 6-course capstone includes daily lectures reinforced by extensive labs. Today, a couple weeks into the semester, Mark's lab focuses on photolithography, a crucial process for most nanotechnology fabrication projects. Through this process, patterns are imprinted onto silicon wafers, common building blocks for nanotechnology. The patterns on the wafers are used to develop numerous types of functional technology, from microchips to transistors.
Where we're at right now is our wafer has been cleaned and prepared to spin on some photoresist, which is actually going to be used for mask processing.
Photoresist is a chemical added to the wafer. It serves as a transfer medium for the pattern to be duplicated onto the wafer. A mask outlines the pattern, in this case a logo, to be duplicated. Light shines through the clear parts of the mask onto the wafer.
We'll actually expose our pattern, and we'll develop it just like you would a photograph in a dark room. That's why the light is actually yellow in here. Now, timing is very crucial on this. Overexposure and underexposure can be, very common problems if you don't have your setup quite right. All right, now that we've exposed it to the UV light, those bonds in the photoresist have been broken, and we won't be able to see any image yet. But we release the contact against the mask. We'll bring it out, and it looks pretty much unchanged here. But after we take it over to the developer, we'll actually see our image.
The developer removes the photoresist on parts of the wafer that have been exposed to light. The result should be the desired image on the wafer.
You can see there now we have an image.
Etch tools then would be used to remove silicon from the wafer to give the pattern a three-dimensional design. Photolithography is used mostly with top-down nanofabrication. obtaining nano-sized materials from carving down large samples. Top-down nanofabrication is the most well-established method, but students are also exposed to bottom-up processes. Bottom-up fabrication mimics Mother Nature. That is, nanoparticles are grown or assembled to a desired pattern. A basic understanding of nano is vital for Mark as he navigates the rigorous lectures and labs and contemplates not only his looming major project, but also his possible future in nanotechnology.
First you go into theory, you learn about why things work the way they do, what the machines are, and ideally what they should do. And then you go into the clean room or the laboratory, and then you actually use the machines to see if you can get those results. And if you don't, then it gives you troubleshooting skills as to how you can the next time. It's an exciting thing to be trusted with that kind of equipment, and to know how to run it is even more important because you are that much of an asset. I'm not looking to have books written about me, but I like being on the ground floor because you know you're in there in the beginning, so then you have a fuller understanding, and that you can almost change trends in it if you're involved enough, and you can find things that maybe somebody else hasn't already. I'd like to get into like material research, something in the medical industry because it's quickly growing and it's always in demand. So something to just help people out and be rewarding in the discovery of something new or creation of something that will change somebody's life. When I'm sitting in my room and it's a bright sunny day, 80 degrees outside, and I'm doing lab reports, I'm not thinking about what I'm doing at that point. I don't find it that pleasurable to sit and do that. But in the future is where it really pay off. So I mean, my work now is gonna make my life that much better down the line.
Renowned physicist Richard Feynman envisioned the potential for nanotechnology nearly 50 years ago, when he discussed the possibility of maneuvering atoms. 30 years later, IBM scientists did just that by positioning atoms to spell IBM. Over the years, researchers discovered that nanotechnology derives its power from its small size. Many materials reduced below 100 nanometers behave differently than they do in bulk form. For example, gold, broken down to nanoparticles, becomes an effective colorant for glass and is fade-proof, qualities apparent in stained glass. Manufacturers have harnessed unique properties at the nano level to enhance existing products and generate new ones. According to Lux Research, a nanotechnology advisory firm, worldwide, companies sold more than $32 billion in nanotechnology-enabled products in 2005, more than double the previous year. Currently, 300-plus consumer products based in nanotechnology are on the market.
If you got a Pentium chip in your computer, you've got nanotechnology. You may have a Band-Aid that has silver particles in it. That's nanotechnology. You may have car wax that's got the wax particles actually produced at a very fine nanoscale and therefore able to fill cracks better.
Lux Research projects by 2014, products incorporating nanotechnology will account for $2.6 trillion, 15% of the world's manufacturing output. But nano will impact more than manufacturing.
I think nanotechnology will have its greatest impact in the future in the medical industry. You're going to see faster lab tests. You're going to see new novel delivery systems for drug molecules.
The Project on Emerging Nanotechnologies counts about 130 nano-based drugs and delivery systems and 125 devices or diagnostic tests in preclinical, clinical, or commercial development, a 70% increase since 2005.
We can make something artificial the size of a virus. We can load it with drugs. We can put it in your body to actually go to where diseases are. We're learning how to put labels on those nanoparticles. They're called vectors. So they'll go, for example, suppose you have something wrong with your liver. Today, if you take a medicine, it goes to every part of your body. What we want is little nano Federal Express trucks that go in with the drug and only go to your liver. These are the kinds of things that are being worked on.
Combined, the U.S. government and private sector spend approximately $3 billion annually on nano research and development, which accounts for about a third of spending worldwide. With the federal government committing over $6 billion since 2001, nanotechnology has become the largest publicly financed science initiative since the space race. But some researchers, public health advocates, and environmentalists say the government is shortchanging nano safety concerns. They believe more than the current estimate of $11 million should be earmarked to study possible negative effects of nanoparticles. Calls also have been made for increased governmental oversight of nanotechnology, which today is mainly self-regulated.
I think it's like any new technology. We're always afraid of what the outcomes may be because we're not really familiar with it enough to be able to evaluate it properly. We really need to educate ourselves and learn what's happening here and how we can be using this appropriately.
You do have to think about nanoparticles. Are they dangerous? Well, some might be. No one knows. So we have to find out. But we certainly can't turn our back to this because the rest of the world won't.
In fact, the National Science Foundation predicts the world will need 2 million nanotechnology workers by 2015, with 1 million of them in the United States.
Our belief is that a student may work 5 years for a semiconductor company, next 3 years for a pharmaceutical company, next 2 years for information storage. We want them to be able to do that.
This course sets you up just to go straight into the workforce because it gives you the experience and the knowledge, and that's what the industry's looking for. They have applications always coming in to people who actually want people from this program because they've had such success with the people who've come out of it.
More than 45 nanotech companies have hired students from Mark's capstone program. The cumulative project near the end of the semester not only shapes students' final grade, it helps them prove to employers that they are nano-ready.
It's a qualification process that really shows people in industry that you know what you're doing because you get that hands-on experience and that you know the machine. You're not just reading it in a book. You're really in there. You have your hands on it and you know what you're doing.
For the last quarter of the semester, Mark will focus on his major project. He'll serve as the team leader for a 5-person group responsible for producing a 100-plus page research report and presentation summarizing their results.
What we do is we make them use the laboratory experiments that they've done. They take scanning electron microscope pictures and they incorporate them into their presentation. So they use the puzzle pieces of the labs that we've developed within the program. And so I think it's unique and it just shows the power of the labs and the power of the techniques that they learn here.
For this final project, we're going to be coming up with the steps to manufacture a replacement joint. And our group has decided to do a jaw, like the joint in the jaw, which is known as the temporomandibular joint. But we have to come up with a useful material, coatings, and everything so that this joint will last as long as possible and be as successful as it can be.
The temporomandibular joint, or TMJ, is used more than any other joint in the body. The TMJ serves as 2 hinges, allowing the mouth to open and close. According to the National Institutes of Health, over 10 million people in the United States suffer from TMJ problems at any given time.
When it comes into the manufacturing of it, when we have to talk about what steps we're going to take, we have to use a lot of what we've done in the lab earlier this semester. We have to know those kind of basics so we know what kind of machinery we'll need to do certain things like putting on coatings.
With just 3.5 weeks to compile the report, Mark must organize his group's research.
We all have to put our parts of the paper together because we're all doing different sections, and then we're going to compile them. You kind of have to get a general idea of, well, this is where we're headed, and then slowly work your way up to that, just making small improvements on your ideas. I try to take it one step at a time and kind of move from checkpoint to checkpoint instead of looking, miles down the road at the finish line. If something goes wrong in the latter stages of this project, that could set us back quite a bit. But if that doesn't happen, then I think we'll be golden.
The result is a 132-page report that illustrates how to manufacture the TMJ replacement.
We had to research all the different materials that were used commonly in joint prosthesis, and then we had to apply them to the TMJ. And by doing that, we limited our choices because some wouldn't work and others, through a lot of comparing and contrasting, we got a better idea of what we could use. And then we chose the best out of everything that we found and then put it into a process and had to know exactly how it was put on or how it was made. So there was just a lot of details, and we had to be real thorough in everything that we did.
Before Mark can submit the project, his group has to highlight their findings in an hour-long presentation to the entire capstone class.
It's going to be kind of like a farewell to the class, I think, because it's the last time, it's the last thing we're going to be doing. So it's just go up there, show them what you've learned, show them what you can do. It'll be a real good experience. And what we're doing here today is going to try to explain the history of the knowledge associated with the adhesives, the coatings, and machining techniques and mold fabrications. Everything involved with creating one of these jaws and doing it successfully, including the...
Mark's group did very well. They covered all bases. They hit fabrication, which is kind of Mark's specialty. You can tell that he's very confident in his machining knowledge. I think they did a good job of tying in what they learned this summer as a group into something that we really don't hit on much as far as production of a final product.
And here's an example of finished milled TMJ implants. We believe that we achieved our goal of creating a superior joint replacement. I haven't really had a chance to enjoy it yet, but I mean, because it's just been work up to this point, and I haven't really had an opportunity to step back and just look at what's happened. So I mean, in the next couple hours or whatever, I'm sure I'll be feeling a lot of relief.
On the semester's final day, Mark checks his grades before returning to Penn College.
Final project, paper we got 100, presentation we got a 95. I mean, reading the peer reviews from the class, everybody seemed pretty impressed. So I'm pretty happy with the result we got. Because it's 6 grades total in all the classes, there's just A, so you can't argue with that, I guess.
It's been said nanotechnology may produce more change in the next 30 years than experienced during the entire 20th century. For Mark Atwater, that change is happening now.
After doing this, I found out that I'm almost unstoppable if I put myself into it 100%. And anybody, I mean, if you don't know where you're going and you think you need something that's going to be a strong career, that's going to be there, that's still developing, this is it. I mean, so anything you can do to get an education to prepare you for it or to get into it, I think would be a wise idea. Because so far, I mean, this has been nothing but good things for me.